So how we will proceed, I will start by giving the microphone to everyone. I just want to make sure you hear us well enough to make a very short presentation on the National Commission that they're leading and the past activities that they had. During the last General Conference, we had a very, very similar meeting, and what we're curious about to know and to find out with all of you today is what has happened during the past 2 years. So that will be our second part of the conversation. And what we will finish with would be, how do we envision the next year? What could be the collaborations that we could create together? And then I will pass on the mic to the audience, to other national commissions who wish to express as well the experience that they've been having with the relations with the NGOs and official partnership, and to NGOs who are here with us today, thank you so very much, to also have some words and to express what is it that they have been doing for the past years with along with national commissions. So we will start, I would say lady first, with Rosie. Rosie, of course. So we will start with a short introduction of the work of the National Commission in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to congratulate you for taking up this very important responsibility from Nick, and thank you for always providing this platform for us to interact. It's very important and healthy for us. I'm Rosie Agoi, as you've heard, Secretary General of Uganda National Commission for UNESCO. Uganda National Commission for UNESCO has been in existence for over 60 years now, and we have had our ups and downs with a number of things, including almost threatening our existence as a national commission because of government's program to rationalize government institutions and agencies. However, needless to say, we have managed to pull through despite the short time of implementation. So I would like to say just perhaps effective implementation out of 2 years has been 1 year. And in the 1 year, we have collaborated with both international NGOs and national NGOs. To talk about international collaboration, because of the threats we had, we almost lost ourselves, lost visibility. We stuck with one major one called CCFU that have been promoting intangible cultural heritage in schools and arts education in schools, and with the National Curriculum Development Center to include intangible cultural heritage and arts education in the secondary school curriculum. So the National Commission has been in partnership, doing advocacy, doing write-ups for curriculum with them, and liaising them with the Ministry of Education and Sports to ensure that this work is done pretty well. On the local side, the one that I can talk about is the media fraternity, where we have had local NGOs like Africa Center for Media Excellence and Media Challenge initiatives that have helped us to work on the PP, the participation program that was to promote freedom of journalists and impunity day for journalists. And we have worked closely with them at the national, local level, because these are very important. Before the international NGOs come, we really work hard with the local ones who understand the issues on the ground. So this is the situation in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Rosie. I think that there will be maybe some questions from the audience in regards to this, but maybe a little bit later. We will continue with Mr. Navarro. As you well know, there are a lot of NGOs in official partnership with UNESCO, which are based in France, and I know that Alexandre Navarro is doing an amazing work with not only the ones that based in France, but also the ones that are working very hard abroad. So I will give him the floor just to have us a quick overview on the work that the National Commission in France is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this kind word. And let me reiterate that we are very happy to be here for this discussion, informal discussion, like I said, between National Commission and NGOs, because it's one of the main roles of National Commission, of course, to support civil society. And it's especially with NGOs accredited by UNESCO that we can do it. In France, in fact, we have 75 NGOs accredited at UNESCO. And of course, for each of them, we support the candidature, we support the accreditation by a UNESCO committee, PNG, Partenaires Non Gouvernementaux. It's a committee of executive board. And we work with them also for some consultation at national level. And it could be, I can say, a good practice, because with this NGO, we structure 2 committees at national level, with NGOs accredited to the Convention 2005 on the diversity of cultural expression, and another committee with the NGOs accredited to the 2003 ACH Convention. We do at least 1 meeting by year, 1 time inside the French Commission, 1 time with the Foreign Ministry, but each time with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we try, before each intergovernmental committee, like it will be this intergovernmental committee of SEH in India in December, we organize a national committee with the NGO part on this SEH to have a national position with NGOs. So it's something that is work now with 2005 since 5 years, and we do it now with the SEH 2003 since 3 years. So it's really a good practice, because with this it's possible to create link between NGOs, of course, but also to have this space of discussion with NGOs and National Commission, but specifically with NGOs and Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Culture. And it's really useful to prepare this kind of intergovernmental committee. At this idea to have this space of consultation and discussion, maybe it could be a proposition to make this committee of executive board, PNG, not only a space of accreditation of NGOs, but back like it was in the past, a space of discussion of NGOs during the executive board. Because it's true that with the 75, of course, NGOs accredited in force, for 450, if I remember, 35 accredited in UNESCO around the world, it's also important to have this space of discussion during the executive board. So maybe it's an idea to make this space of Partenaires Non Gouvernementaux, this PNG committee of executive board, have some time of discussion, not only for the accreditation of NGOs, but also for engagement of thematic and panel. What I would like also to share with you, like in best practice, we support now a new kind of workshop with UNESCO clubs. I speak about it because some NGOs are also sometimes UNESCO clubs, and specifically for youth. And I would like to propose a model we propose for UNESCO clubs, and maybe think to develop it with the NGOs. We create a specific workshop during 1 year with the support of Foreign Ministry for the use of UNESCO clubs, and there is a specific publication on it about gender equality, health, la santé mentale, I forget the word, santé mentale. Mental health, of course, it was so simple, mental health, and sustainable development, a space of discussion with use of UNESCO clubs. And with this occasion, we propose a World Youth Forum of UNESCO clubs. There is also the publication just behind you in 2 languages, in French and in English. And it's, I can say, a specific capacity of mobilization for youth to engage discussion with UNESCO clubs. So maybe it could be another proposal to have a specific space for youth of NGOs accredited, and why not think about a world forum of youth of NGOs. So of course it needs some resources, but if there is some mutualization, like we do for UNESCO clubs, it's also a possibility to have, like I said, concrete engagement and give the voice of youth between and by the NGOs for this kind of discussion. And again, it's because all this work joined finally the first ideal and the first engagement of National Commission to support civil society, and the work is done, of course, with you, and is done with youth. So thank you so much.
I would like to thank Mr. Navarro, because it's not only about sharing experience, but also making proposals, and I do keep those in mind. I have to say that I did attend the meeting with the NGOs accredited to the 2003 conventions in Paris that took place in late September, just before Mondial took place in Barcelona. And I think that it was a very fruitful meeting, and I'm very happy that it's being held. And about the Youth Forum, I encourage all of you on the way out after our meeting today to have a look at the book that he just showed to you about the first edition of the Youth Forum of the UNESCO clubs. And I know that the one for next year is already being planned. I would also like to remind you, and I'm very happy that the NGO-UNESCO Liaison committee has a youth working group, which is created by young, inspiring people nominated by their NGOs to contribute to our work. And I would be very interested to have a conversation to see how can these two groups of young people could collaborate in the future, because that's an idea, and I think a very good one. Last but not least, I give the floor to James Bridge. It's a pleasure to see you here today with us, James, to talk about a little bit the UK National Commission and the work that you've been doing. You and Alexandre, I met in Barcelona during Mondial Cult. There was a similar event that was held. And I always think it's very beautiful to have this dynamics and balance here, having this conversation that will very shortly open to you as well. Give you the floor, James.
Thank you, President, and congratulations from me as well on your election. Really looking forward to all the things you're already making happen. So, assalamu alaikum and bonjour, and such a pleasure to be here again. I'll speak only for about 4 minutes because there's so many people here and very important to hear from you. And I'll say something about UNESCO's founding in this 80th year, and then moving to some best practice examples. It was also excellent to hear from Alexandre, the French National Commission, about the concrete proposals, and of course, Rosie, the key work that you were doing, and also the continuity from the last General Conference. And I recognize some of the faces as well from before. It's also important to say a big thank you to the NGO Liaison colleagues at UNESCO and the National Commission unit for creating this space. So rahmat for that. So we're here in the 80th anniversary year of UNESCO. Some of you may have heard the speech this morning from Michael Ignatieff about getting back to the heart of UNESCO and what is in that constitution. Some of the colleagues here are working in that constitutional aim about building links between people and countries to build the defences of peace. And I think, and you know, Rosie, when you were talking about some of the challenges, it's all about, and I encourage you all, and I'm surrounded by experts who know more than me about the constitution, and those people who suffered so much in the Second World War, the Great War, and those who are suffering now in war around the world, those people will say you need more than financial and military alliances. You must have understanding between people, and UNESCO offers that multilateral framework. But it will only work if we deliver it on the ground. with our designations with the NGOs. And as you said in Mondiacult, we work together. I was very grateful there for the side event that we did with countries from around the world, with NGOs, with Claire of IFLA from the international NGOs, creating these opportunities. Because ultimately the people with which we work, and as Alexandre said, the young people, for example, on the ground, well, what difference does it make to me? You know, we're here in Samarkand, they're trusting us to be able to make the connections that are needed. And ultimately, if it's going to be, as you may have heard the likely future DG say, building on the foundations of our current DG, if it's going to be a people's UNESCO, then it has to be meaningful, it has to be grassroots. And what better way than with a combination as well within the multilateral structure of NGOs and the national commissions working in alignment with their member states. So I said I wouldn't go on a long time, so we better move quickly to best practice. So since we were here, you said, well, what have we done? We've been working very hard, like all of you. And one of the big things is, what difference does it make to me? So in terms of, you know, a young person in an area where there is social deprivation, we've been working with young UNESCO ambassadors and people at our World Heritage Site in Blaenavon, which used to be an area with some difficulty, has had a renaissance, and those young people have been volunteer UNESCO ambassadors, and we have seen them have really improved educational opportunities. You know, we can prove it, we can prove the difference it makes. Secondly, we have been working systematically with a strategy with our parliamentarians and ministers throughout the country. And we have 162 politicians who have a constituency where there is a UNESCO site. So with them, we're working on storytelling. And we are non-political, so we help the designations tell the story. And we find that that political side is needed, as well as all the hard work that we're doing with the government officials and the civil service. And then lastly, to finish, on my point of this being the 80th anniversary of the founding of UNESCO, and you know, in UNESCO spirit, we say that in compromise, lovely compromise with our French colleagues, we say that UNESCO was conceived in London in the UK in 1945, but born in Paris in 1946. That's the UNESCO spirit, I think. But we're the UNESCO family. And the truth is, it is difficult to tell the story. So as I was saying, you have to feel it, and it's up to us, the NGOs, the countries, the Commission, to make our people say, well, is it helping me get a job? Does it make me feel better about my identity, my life, and a sense of world community? And therefore, one thing we have done, we followed in the footsteps of Germany and France, who have created a information leaflet on what is a national commission, so that people can understand it, ministers, officials, and other audiences. But there are multiple audiences. So we were set the challenge by our government to produce it on one page. It was painful, it wasn't easy, it took us 3 months, but we've managed something that is getting some traction. Now, it just works in our country. It'll be different in your country, but I just wanted to share that people are very interested in what we can prove we can deliver, and if they can really feel it in their heart that it's changing their lives. But ultimately, for a grassroots UNESCO, for a people's UNESCO, that's what we together are all going to have to do. Merci.
Thank you so very much, James. Very inspiring as usual. I just have to reflect very quickly on some of the words that you just said and just stayed in my mind, because I will just take this opportunity in brackets to tell you a little bit about I come from Bulgaria. Bulgaria is on the Black Sea coast, and since I'm here, everybody keeps repeating that for the last 40 years, this is the first time that the General Conference is taking place somewhere outside Paris. Do you know where the last time, where did it take place? Okay, you all know. It is indeed. It is indeed. It took place in Bulgaria in very difficult times, I have to say. Different times, maybe it's a better word. I would just like to reflect on what James just mentioned about the context. As he said, maybe it does work in my country, but it might not work exactly the same way when you go somewhere else. And I just say it from personal experience. I myself am 35 years old. I also come from youth, and that's why for me it's quite crucial. How do we relate to the youth? And it's very curious for me to observe. And when Rosie, you mentioned the media challenges, initiative freedom of journalists. In my country at the moment, for example, there is initiative to have a law against the freedom of expression of journalists. So for me, it is quite crucial to reflect on the fact that yes, we are a big family, and as a big family, we do have to face our diversity and to make sure that there is understanding when we speak about the work that we do. Before we go to maybe concrete examples that we can maybe give with the work that you had with NGOs on field, I would like to share with you, when I went to Barcelona, the main thing I wanted to focus on, and I was very happy that one of the ministers of culture was talking very much about it, underlining it, that what they do is that whenever they have had their strategy, the current strategy for culture, they made a huge consultation with NGOs because they know that they are the ones working on field. They are the ones that are reaching out to audiences, and they not only have capacities most of the time, but they do have the expertise. And this is a word I would just like to say loud and clear, expertise, because the non-governmental organizations are created and they hold a huge capacity of expertise by the people who are working there. So maybe I will just quickly give back the mic in the same order, starting with Rosie, to share a very concrete experience of collaboration with an NGO, maybe emphasizing which are the what makes the communication easier and which could be the obstacles for you, which you're facing from your side, to see if there is a way for them to be facilitated, maybe.
Thank you very much for your question. One example that I would quickly remember is working with the NGO world. Sometimes their agenda is a little diversified from, what UNESCO would like to build. For example, especially the ones that work with freedom of expression, freedom of, it gets a little wild and a little, I would say wild and a little too open. And of course, UNESCO encourages open, free space. But then, being a national commission for UNESCO, you are caught between a hard place and a rock, because you are partially government, and then you are partially UNESCO, and then you have to protect government as well as when you promote some of these ideals. So sometimes, especially when we are talking about sensitive issues like impunity, and governments come under direct attack, because we know sometimes it is government forces, security forces that actually turn around and hit at the journalists. And as a national commission for UNESCO, you don't know whether to tell them to say it softly or to say it loud enough, because you are advocating for what UNESCO believes in. So it gets into the way, and you don't know whether they want to be that loud, or you don't know whether they can allow to be controlled. You understand what I mean? You're caught between that kind of space. So promoting the NGO interest and your government's interest and UNESCO's interest becomes a little of a challenge. So we have found ourselves in that kind of situation where we want to promote what UNESCO wants us to do. We are government and UNESCO, but the NGO partner wants to really go because they are independent. They want to really make it loud, but they can only do the kind of work they're doing with your support because of what UNESCO advocates for, you know? So you are really the platform they would need. The NatCom is the platform they would need, but you know, there's that kind of thing. So we find ourselves in that kind of dilemma, and it's a bit hard, and we have to sometimes shyly, quietly tell them that maybe they should tone down, and then the media is very fast to say what Rosie said in a meeting, and you feel like, and then I need to tell you that the minister, our minister is the First Lady, right? And the Minister of Education and Sports is the chair of the National Commission. So you find we are in a very difficult position sometimes. I hope I have addressed it. Thank you. But in the first question, I think there's something I missed out. Maybe I'll ask my colleague to elaborate a little more on it. We have UNESCO clubs, and this year I think we are one country that got the largest number of UNESCO clubs in 2 years, 35 at a go, from nothing. Yes, and it was a very big achievement, but I'd like to say most of these clubs are members of local NGOs. So we work very closely with them, and we are planning to have a big meeting to strategize on how we can have a stronger collaboration, and especially with the youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosie. Yes, a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Rosie, for sharing this. And yes, it is delicate, and it feels like you're juggling in a very delicate way. But yes, I would love to hear from your colleague afterwards when we open the floor, just to add on to what you were saying. And I would maybe encourage for afterwards, when we finish with the official part, to maybe speak a little bit more about the club members of local NGOs that you were just referring to, because I have the feeling that there is an idea gathering here in regards to the clubs and to the youth members of the NGOs as well. So Alexandre, I would go with the same question for you in relation to maybe the obstacles. So sometimes in a conversation, you don't know, but there is a gap, and because of this gap, sometimes the things are not happening in the way that you envisioned them to happen. So, in your personal experience working with NGO, how would you define this gap?
Thank you so much. In fact, I will complete what Rosie said about the role visionary of the work of NGOs, and I can give 2 concrete examples that we do and support. First, when we start to work on childhood education on the UNESCO field, an education field, the first reaction was to say, but childhood education is not UNESCO, it's UNICEF. But we said, no, in fact, of course, there is protection and security and education of childhood, and so we have to work on it. And we structure some discussions, some debate in UNESCO, of course, and je profite de ce temps pour présenter Gilles de l'OMEP, l'Organisation mondiale de l'éducation de la petite enfance, qui interviendra après tout à l'heure si je ne me trompe pas, mais sur lequel we work on this childhood education, first at work of mobilization with member states and with NGO like OMEP to develop, we can see, a new comprehensive of the role of education at childhood level. Because when we speak, of course, of women education, the first level of education is childhood education, and we have to work on it. And when we start on it, there is this difficulty to say it's not the mandate of UNESCO. In fact, it was little visionary of how we can orient UNESCO works. And since this time, it was in 2015, since this time, of course, there was this World Declaration of Tashkent. It was the Congress, World Congress here in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, adopted about the protection of childhood protection and education of childhood education. But it's a concrete example of how we can give a new orientation of mandate of UNESCO, and with the work of NGO structure, finally the engagement of UNESCO. And another example that I would like to give, it's first initiative of the German Commission, so I really want to thank them. It's concrete action and engagement of network of national commission with the support of the French Commission, Korean, Kenyan, and all other commissions, the World Network with NGOs, is this initiative of fair culture. And I think maybe the German Commission, it will be the opportunity for them to propose some word of presentation, but just to say that, again, it was a positionment, first a reflection, a study launched by a UNESCO chair with the NGO Committee of Cultural World and International Cultural NGOs. And with this charter of fair culture, there is no 200 signatory, some member states, some NGOs, some individuals, and it's to give a new reflection of the mandate of UNESCO about the status of artists and a good remuneration of artists and the protection of the rights of artists. You will have also, I think at the entrance, a card with a QR code. If it's possible, you can sign this charter of fair culture, and it's again a combination of the work of scientific aspects, mobilization of NGOs, and the work of international commission and networks. So this is the point finally, that we have the power to transform political general debate on concrete action and to give finally some visionary and mandate to UNESCO that we want to give. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandre. I think that this is a wonderful example with the childhood education mobilization that you spoke about and the Fair Culture Charter. Yes, please, on your way out, you will see promotional materials of the Fair Culture Charter. As I mentioned to you, I also come from the cultural field, and it's quite the initiative. I would be very happy if Lutz could maybe share with us afterwards how long did it take, because it's also a process, and it's very curious to find out how long these processes take. And before we open to the audience, I think I'll just give the floor to James to reflect a bit on the same questions as the others.
So time is flying by, and I'm also seeing in the audience, just to acknowledge from around the world here in Samarkand, and colleagues from Angola who have their 50th anniversary coming up, Australia, many small island developing states, and this is part of that UNESCO family. But the point I'm making is about, again, UNESCO constitution, and again referring us all back to look at that, about why it's valuable, and the 6 key areas, of convening power, etc., and standard setting. So Rosie set out the challenges, but please, everyone and all of you, and with your government, the Constitution says why the National Commission is useful. So yes, it is between a rock and a hard place, but also it's a position of incredible privilege. And then working with your NGOs, so long as there's absolute clarity about how it works, then we can together do extraordinary things. And in our business case, within our own member state, we're able to say with the ministry, with the officials, look, there are sometimes quite challenging things that we want to achieve that might be in the UN goals, the UNESCO goals, but as the National Commission, we can do things that might be difficult for you, or we can experiment a little bit, or we can give you advice in a different way. And people will go, okay, give it a go. So I really think if we capture this data carefully and give evidence about what difference we're making, this is very special. And you've heard about some of the tools, from Alexandre, for example, and the way that Rosie was able to handle it. And in 20 seconds, the way we did it is at Mondiocult with the NGOs. UNESCO put us together in a position where we worked with Poland, where there was a platform for all the NatComs, including Fair Culture, Curaçao, Latvia. And the position that we were given as well with the NGOs was for something that was not agreed with the UK's official policy. And it was, how do you handle it? But I'll tell you how we handled it. We were very honest, we were very clear, and working with that clarity, we were able to speak honestly. And many colleagues said this was a very successful event and it's a foundation on which to build. I think just like we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'll just reflect quickly saying accessibility. Sometimes you do have a certain access and sometimes you don't. But when you don't, it's important to know who to contact to in order for you to have this accessibility. So I will now open the floor. As James said, time is flying. And I would like to, could you maybe please, with raise of hand, show me how many national commissions are there in the room? I did not see that coming. It is very nice to see you all. I would love to meet all of you after we finish on stage. It would be wonderful. Is any of you has reflection upon the conversation we just had, something that you would like to share from your personal experience, just to present yourself, to say where you come from, and to share the initiative? So I saw this beautiful lady here. Can I maybe invite you on stage? Do you mind to give you the microphone? I'll make some space.
Hello, my name is Nazia Ibrahim. I'm the officer in charge of operations at the Ghana NatCom. So in the spirit of experimentation, we've been trying to form a database for NGOs that are willing to work with the NatCom in Ghana. And typically in the Ghanaian NGO space, funding most of the times comes from outside. We realize that the government kind of is alienated from the financing of NGOs. So the emphasis typically is that what happens when funding ends with NGOs in Ghana. So we are trying to encourage a lot of the NGOs to venture into social enterprises where you can sustain yourself after outside funding is gone. So with NatCom, we are realizing that our concentration is on the NGO space and not moving them into the social enterprises sector. And also we have hubs that are into science and technology, and they are also a bit different from NGOs. So I'm trying to ask, how is UNESCO looking at accommodating these different categories of changes in the NGO sector coming up recently? Because a lot of them approach the NatCom, but they are not the typical NGO. Either they are a social enterprise or a hub, and they want to be part of UNESCO, maybe as an officially or accredited organization of UNESCO or just some agency of UNESCO like we do typically. So from our end, we don't know how to integrate them into the process. So it's just a question, a suggestion. And the second thing is, how do we streamline the process? How much time should they wait? If you want to become an accredited or recognized NGO for UNESCO, how much time should you wait? what due diligence should we do for them before they can become officially recognized by UNESCO as partners of the NATCOM. Thirdly, last one, I promise. So how do we stimulate the government to see the NATCOMs as somewhere they should direct a lot of funding? Because we are having funding challenges because most governments seem to think it's a UN body, so UN should be in charge of giving money for NGO spaces when it comes to the NATCOM. So how do we work around that? Thank you.
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to meet you, by the way. I think that those are very important questions. If you would like to have a short answer, we can offer this to you, because today we do have a representative from the Secretariat, so maybe I can give the floor shortly to Sabina Colombo, and then we continue with the interventions from the public.
Yes, thank you. Maybe shortly, because I think it's time for debate, for intervention of others, and I remain available to provide you all the answer. I'm Sabina Colombo. I'm the Chief of the Unit for Civil Society Partnership here in UNESCO. And maybe I will just address the second question regarding the process for admission to our network of official partners. Everything is available on the website. The time frame now it is most clear is around 1 year in total. And I want just to maybe mention that we have just very recently launched a consultation with the National Commission to map, especially in the region. And maybe within this framework we'll be back to you and we can discuss how continue and see which of these organizations can be formalized in the network, because our network is composed of 435 NGOs currently, but we are looking for an expansion and especially a diversification in order to have many regions that are not well represented in the network. Regarding your first question about the types of organization, this is a good question, and this is something that we are with which we are very much confronted to, because I would say the status of organization of civil society is evolving, and this is certainly something that the organization need to address at a certain point. We are not yet there. We still work under a classical framework of non-governmental organization, but there is certainly something that is a discussion and thought that needs to be started within the Secretary and certainly with the NGOs, with the National Commission and the other relevant stakeholders. I hope that I was not short.
Thank you very much, Sabina. I love it when we have the Secretariat here with us to answer directly to the questions. And thank you for your intervention. Just very shortly to see if there is another National Commission so that we can move to the NGOs after that. Lutz, would you like to share maybe a little bit about it? Okay.
Very shortly, just from the perspective of the German Commission for UNESCO, I would not really delve into the internationally recognized NGOs because we have already discussed that, but say 3 other things that might be interesting. First, the German Commission for UNESCO is itself an NGO. We are actually a chartered non-for-profit association, which is because Germany, which has started the Second World War, we tried after 1945 to develop as many functions of the government away from the actual government. So our National Commission is actually legally an NGO, even though we're working very closely and hand in glove with the government. Second, as we are an association, we bring all the major NGOs, like the umbrella organizations of all the scientific institutions, umbrella organizations of arts institutions, of arts education, we bring them all as members of our commission into our own governance, and they help us to develop policies. Whenever we're doing activities like preparing a quadrennial report for the 2005 conventions, for example, we try to include the NGO chapter, which has to be there for the 2005 convention report. We try to include the NGO report fully integrated into the state government report, which always is a lot of of a lot of problems because the government doesn't like critical positions included into the state report, but it has always worked. These kind of difficulties, you can overcome them. And finally, on another class is of course activist NGOs, which we are also trying to work on, like activist NGOs on climate change, on human rights, etc. This is sometimes more difficult because these NGOs tend to be very critical of our government. So to formally include them into position making is not always easy, but also we have made the experience that this pays out. And finally, very shortly, because that was raised by Alexandre, if you are interested in this initiative on fair culture, please address me later on. That's a long-term exercise which we have started 5 years ago and which we will continue at least for the next few years because we want to apply the fair trade principles to creative industries, really to see what can we learn from fair trade in agricultural products in the creative industries. And the charter which you can find on that website is an intermediate step. We want to go towards certification and labeling of business models in the creative industries. And whoever is interested in that, specifically those colleagues from the Global South, you're very much welcome to work with us because all that has been driven by experts and NGOs in the Global South and just facilitated by us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lutz. It is indeed a great initiative, and I would encourage you to look for Lutz afterwards. And I would like to give the floor to Marie-Claude Marchand. Would you like to join us on stage? We do have about 5 more minutes left. Shall I? Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So first I want to thank all the national commissions and also Mr. Alexandre Navarro from the French National Coalition because we've had its patronage for our events on peace, celebrating peace. We are a collective group of NGOs and of course UK is also collaborating with NGOs, like my NGOs, BPW International, with Ukraine, and so that's sort of also similarity with other national commissions. So I will say the different NGOs. So we are 7 NGOs, and so we have the Council of International Council for Television and Communication. We have also the World Federation of Scientific Workers. We have OMEP, who is here too. We have Esperanto, UEA, and also we have UNIMA, in fact, because the last 2 events to celebrate peace are about the role of art in the culture of peace. Last year, we also had a patronage of the National Commission, and it was Sharing Dance for Peace. So we were happy to be hosted in the Regional Bureau of Rabat for the Maghreb, which was really a very nice place to be. So the recommendation that came out of this session, first, a universal language to break down cultural and linguistic barriers, and also to describe unspeakable collective trauma through illustrations, like for example for Jeju Island for the incident 4.3, which is also now in the memory of the world. Leveraging education for peace through emotions, starting at a young age with a map, social inclusion, ATD First World, equality between men and women. It's about the business professional women, but also the International Association of Educators to Peace, symbolic resistance against oppression from FMTS, and a reconstruction by rehabilitating the imagination by a professor from Africa, from Congo, with the examples of traditional dance of Dabke, of the Forsen troupe for art in the ruins of Gaza, and the ballet choreographed by female workers in Mexico. Fourth recommendation, a tool for intergenerational and intercultural dialogue for living together. and a ballet also by women workers. And of course, this is about consolidation of gender equity, and we talked about this. And thank you also to the National Commission to work with us on the gender equality. Also a catalyzer for social transformation. This comes from the Forsen Troupe for Art. So art, the outcome is art is not only diversion, it is a political act, a gentle and unwavering force for the culture of peace. It's a question of rehabilitating our imagination to re-inhabit our collective memories while refusing the colonization of the future. So I think that, as you said, it's about also having the contribution from NGOs who have expertise, from CSOs, and it's only by working together in multilateralism and across sectors that we can reach and share humanity, peace, sustainable development, and prosperity for all. Thank you very much. You will find this at the entrance, okay? Or maybe I give it to you.
Thank you very much, Marie-Claude. As we are coming towards the end of today's session, I would like to thank each and every one of you to have the time to come here today and listen. I hope it was a fruitful discussion for all of you. And before we all leave, I would like to let you know that tomorrow at 12:30, we will have a discussion about what has happened for the past mandates of the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee and where are we heading and how can we collaborate. So I would like to invite all of you to join us for this talk tomorrow, and just right after that we will have 10 different presentations from NGOs telling about their projects and also pitching their ideas for the future. So I would once again like to thank all of you. Please do come and meet me. I would love to meet all of you today because I'm super happy that we had the opportunity to have our speakers. Thank you so very much, Rosie, Alexandre, and James. And thank you all in the audience for sharing your experience and time with us today. Thank you. Have a fruitful day.